Okay, order to call the Hopkinton Town Council meeting of January 27, 2020 to order with a moment of silent meditation and salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, tonight it's a petition for a comprehensive plan and zoning amendment. Resume the suspended hearing to consider an amendment to the Hopkinton zoning ordinance and the Hopkinton comprehensive plan future land use map filed by Atlantic Solar LLC, 260 West Exchange Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02903, and Atlantic Control Systems, Inc., 318 Dry Bridge Road, North Kingstown, Rhode Island, 02903. I think that's 02852, I believe. The landowner for property located at 0 Main Street, identified as Plat 7, Lot 32, Plat 10, Lot 87, Plat 11, Lot 35, an RFR80 zone, originally scheduled for hearing on November 19, 2018. No hearing held and continued to January 14, 2019. No hearing held and continued to April 15, 2019. No hearing held and continued to May 28, 2019. No hearing held and continued to June 10, 2019. No hearing held and the matter was rescheduled on July 15, 2019 to October 28, 2019. Hearing held and subsequently suspended. Resumed hearing date, time, and location set during January 6, 2020 Town Council meeting. The applicants propose to install a ground-mounted photovoltaic solar array on the existing 29.7-acre property listed as Assessor's Plat 7, Lot 32, Plat 10, Lot 87, Plat 11, Lot 35, to construct a ground-mounted solar array on the property. The proposal to utilize the property will require approval of the proposed comprehensive plan and future land use map amendment from RFR 80 to commercial special, and a zoning map amendment from RFR 80 to commercial special. The applicants are here. At least all the fees and notices posted, all that good stuff? Okay. All right, so last we met was October 28th. There was an additional lot added to the project, which subsequently had us table this project, which brings us to today.
It does. I'll be happy to give an explanation of where we were, what changes were made, Mr. President, and where we are today. And then I'll introduce Alan Benavides, who's the engineer on this project, who will explain exactly where we are now and explain the handouts that you folks got last week with maps, etc. But before I do that, I want to apologize. The reasonable man perception of what happened on October 28th would be that there might have been some intention to expand our original request that came along with this application by Atlantic. That was not the intention. There was an opportunity by the applicant to acquire a piece of property that is owned by Mr. Yates, who was a substantial abutter, to give him an opportunity to make a financial arrangement so that the Atlantic would have financial interest and an ownership interest in the property, and Mr. Yates would be able to stay there for the remainder of his life. And that would create an additional buffer to other folks. Because screening, certainly screening the project from the neighbors was the paramount objection from the hearings and from the discussions that we heard. However, although that property is still under agreement, we have no intention of using it for solar. We have no intention of using it for buffer. It is not part of this project in any way, shape, or form. Alan will explain that to you. As far as where we are today, on October 28th, obviously, that misunderstanding took place. Your solicitor was very helpful in coming to an understanding of, for you folks, to postpone this, table it. We did request in January, after we came to a specific agreement of exactly what it is we were going to do, and then resubmit it to you folks, both legal descriptions as well as artist rendition, maps of exactly what we were going to do. Again, as I indicated, this will be the third time in this colloquy now. Alan will explain that to you so that it's crystal clear to both the council as well as to the neighbors here. Because I expect this will be the, once Alan explains this most recent submission to you, this will be the end of our presentation. So this will be the final opportunity we'll have to explain to you before you folks entertain questions from the audience and from the neighbors. There are two, as Alan refers to it, two table submissions. I asked him whether or not table meaning what you're sitting behind right now, and he said no, it's the calculations that associate themselves with these engineered drawings. There are a couple of numbers, figures in that table drawing that he is going to submit to you now on those two particular figures, the changes that were made because they were inaccurate mathematically. So I can see, Mr. President, that he's handed you half a dozen or so copies. If you could submit those to the council members and the town manager and the solicitor and the town clerk, I appreciate it. So that's the end of my presentation right now. Before we go to questions, and I will present Alan Benavides to you unless the council has any questions again.
Hey, Bob, I just have one.
Sure.
This amount that Alan gave, was this different from what we got in our packet?
No,
Okay.
but the table is.
Oh, well, then.
He's going to point out the figures. What's on the ones you got a week and a half ago and how the numbers differ. So hypothetically, if the number said 50 and it was really meant to be 64, he's going to explain it to you. Alan, without further ado, come on.
Great. So Alan Benavides, Woodard and Curran. What I'll do is I'll just give you a brief overview of what was submitted prior to this meeting, and I'll also describe what Councilor Craven just talked about in terms of the correction of the figures. So based on the last meeting, there were two changes that were made to the project from the engineering side. One of them, as he indicated earlier, we removed all aspects, any proposed work from the parcel that was located. So previously, in the prior submission, we were here last time, there were panels that were shown in that area right there. Those panels have since been removed from the project. So that was one change. That parcel has been completely removed from the proposed project, back down to 3. The other thing is we made some changes that we wanted to reflect in the drawing. So not only the layout of the panels that I just spoke about, so some other either clarifications or some small modifications. So what you have in your packet is this drawing right here, and this really summarizes some of the changes that were made to the project, provides greater clarification. So that's the first thing that was submitted. The second submittal is an updated aerial photo, and it essentially goes back to the original aerial photo. It has the updated layout on it, but it's overlaying over the aerial, so it's an updated photo of that. The next drawing that's there is a more detailed panel layout. Essentially, it's this kind of blown up a little bit greater detail, so that's the third. So essentially, this one and the first one, the third one are very similar. And then the last one is the cross-sectional layout that we provided with you. So the fourth one is the visual cross-section provided from the highway. So there were 4 drawings that were provided as updates to the board. What I'll do is I'll describe the general changes. I'm going to switch boards when I get to that that board, I'll describe the numbers that changed when I get to that board.
Can you describe them by figure, 2 or 3, whatever, because it's going to be later.
Sure.
So we know what's going on.
So there's a figure entitled Atlantic Solar Electrical Equipment. You put the figure number on it, that would appear, yeah. So
What's the figure number?
there isn't a figure number on it, but it's this one right here. So see right in the corner, Atlantic Solar Electrical Equipment. So that's the first drawing that's submitted. And again, this reflects the changes when this drawing tries to do is highlight those changes. So that's the first drawing that's submitted. Second drawing, figure 1, entitled Aerial Radius Map. And again, what this is the updated layout with the panels removed from the fourth parcel, overlaying on an aerial photo. So we have that one. Is that good? Okay. Okay. Figure 2, existing and proposed tree clearing figure. While I'm on it, since I'm going back through these, so this figure is essentially very similar to what you see up here. It provides a little more information about the site and some of the details. If you look on the bottom of the page, there's 2 numbers. Area of remaining trees after clearing, 4.84%, forested after clearing, 36.5. When we updated the tables, those figures weren't updated. So what I just presented to you just a few minutes ago, exactly the same drawing. If you look on those figures, you'll see a little note that those 2 numbers have been changed, and it's approximately 0.8 to 0.9 acres difference. So the amount of tree clearing is actually a little bit greater than was reflected. The area shown is correct. So the green area hasn't changed. It was just in the table numbers hadn't been updated. So the version you have shows the 2 numbers that are changed, and it has the updated numbers.
So the area of remaining trees after clearing is 15.62.
Correct.
And then the percent forested after clearing is 52.6. Prior it was 16.49 and 55.5.
Correct. Okay. And then the last figure that we have is figure 3. And that is the plan and profile for I-95 site. And essentially that's, and then there's a copy of it right there. And that was just updated based, again, on the updated layout. So those 4 drawings were submitted. Primarily the lot removal and the reorientation of the panels because of that. But there were a couple of other changes that I just wanted to touch on briefly. They are on the cover letter, so if you look at the cover letter that was submitted, it highlights the changes that were made. If you go back onto the first sketch one. So if we turn back to this drawing here, you should all have, and again, this is what was resubmitted. This summarizes almost all of the changes. There's one that's not summarized on this drawing. But one of the things that was changed is there were previously inverters located in this area right here of the site. What was done is that it was redesigned, and you can see, and it's hard to see from here, is that where the inverter is, Frank?
The inverter pad was right here, and it was reduced in size. And the reason why the inverter pad was reduced in size is that we switched over to what they call string inverters. And these string inverters are now located on the rack of the panels.
So there's 2 equipment pads, one located, you can see from there, one there. Okay.
So
Got it. Okay, and then the other one is right there. So instead of being located near the property boundary, which it was in the prior version. It was reduced in size for the reason Frank said. Instead of having one large inverter, each of the panels has what's called string inverters. Therefore, the equipment pad is much smaller. So the pad is spread out, pulled much farther away from the property boundary down to here and right here. So that was one of the changes. The other change that was made, the roadway, we reoriented the roadway and we moved it farther away from the property boundary here as well. There's a minimum of the 35 feet of buffer area here. It was much closer before, so we've got this moved away from the area as far as we can. Up on this side, there's wetlands, so we're sort of trying to stay outside the buffer zone of the wetlands. So we moved the roadway as far west as we can and to stay outside of the buffer zone. So that was another change. So those changes were made in the drawings, moving it farther away, making smaller pads, and then again removing the panels from the parcel. So any questions on either what you have for the revised submittal or any questions on the revisions that I went over?
Sorry about that. I'm pleased that you moved the inverters to string inverters, and I'm very pleased you moved the transformers much further away from humans. So I appreciate that.
Good.
On the roadway going into the property, on the new one you gave us, the one that you just gave us, there's a little red dot. Is that the electrical connection
Yes.
from National Grid?
Yeah, great.
So, just a minute, if it's the electrical connection from National Grid, then you would also move that inside the property?
We moved that to be on the opposite side of the roadway, so we've got a better sense of where that is. Yeah, and so where you can see in this drawing here, you can see what the poles would look like, and there's 4 dots that are on there. On the first drawing that you have to describe what each of those poles are, and then the dots on the drawing show where those poles are going to be. So that's really dictated by National Grid.
It is, but you move them further into the property, so
That's-
they're not right on the road.
That's correct.
That's
Yes.
a benefit as
Yeah,
well.
so you're correct. So, right. So that was one additional change which is highlighted right there. But yes, you're correct. Thank you.
What is the total buffer from Interstate 95, where the green begins, to the green edge? Your property. What's the total footage, yardage?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
What is the buffer from Interstate 95, where the green begins, to the fence line where the inverters, the string inverters are placed?
And may it please Council, Frank Epps from Energy Development Partners. I actually have this in writing from my own notes, and so it's easier to read. So the total amount of space between Route 95, the pavement of Route 95, and the fence, please remember the panels are 25 feet off of the fence. But between the fence line and Route 95, it's a total of 193.64 feet, 193.64.
So that's from the pavement of Route 95 to the fence line.
That's correct. Consisting of that 193 feet, we'll start from the fence. There is a 40-foot distance between the fence and the tree line. And then there is 115 feet of buffer, of tree buffer that is existing. And then there goes 38 feet from the existing tree line to the east to the pavement. And that is that's the existing tree line to 95, so that is not being touched. So again, 38 feet from of swale, of pavement and swale from the 95 to the tree line, 115 feet of tree areas that is not being touched, an additional 40 feet of cleared area to the fence, and that consists of the total 193.64 feet.
No, we don't. Thank you. Found the record.
I just have a question for
Engineer. For Alan or myself?
No, Frank.
Oh, Frank, come on. Yes.
So the only two things I wanted to do, I read the transcript, because so much time had gone by last night. I wanted to do a site walk. So I guess I want to schedule that. I want to see where the abutters are in reference to the array, proposed array. So I don't know if we can schedule that.
I'm at your disposal.
Yeah, so weekends are best.
Sure.
So I do have, I'll probably do it next weekend, Saturday or Sunday.
So this, excuse me, this coming Saturday, I understand the weather is still going to be good, but
It's not going to be good?
no, it is going to be good. I understand Sunday we might be looking at a storm later in the day. So anytime on Saturday or Sunday morning will be fine.
All right, yeah, I'd like to do maybe around 10 a.m. Saturday.
Very good.
All right, so that's number one. And anyone else that wants to walk the site?
I can't make that one, but I'll talk to you afterward about scheduling time during next week.
That'll be fine.
I work in UK, so it's 4 weeks ahead.
I'm available to anyone as a group or individual at any time for the site walk.
And then the other item I wanted to see is, I think at that last meeting we had on October 28th, I had mentioned to Mr. Craven, it seemed like no one had talked to the abutters, so I know, I think there was a meeting held by some of the abutters were present, so I'm just curious on how that meeting went. Were they, I guess just how it went, were they in favor, not in favor? I know what happened, I think a week or so ago, I'm not sure.
The meeting took place, I believe, on the 22nd, the evening of the 22nd. It was, the abutter list was used for a mailing to the abutters about a week beforehand. And the meeting took place between the abutters and the landlord. No representative from the solar company, Energy Development Partners, was present. As to, I believe that was to allow the landowner and the abutters to have a, excuse me, very frank conversation. The property owner is here tonight, and he can comment on the reaction of the.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Obviously, I wasn't there, and I don't think anyone else from the town was there, so,
If you don't mind, Jim, I'd like to introduce Mr. James Grundy, who is the property owner.
I don't.
First, I'd like to say that I was at the October meeting, and perhaps some of the confusion was on my part. I was under the belief that the solar company was going to be sending out for the meeting, and when it started to get close, I contacted them, and they said that they thought that you wanted me to. So we did get a letter out. Unfortunately, the letter went out the week before. Speaking with some of the people, it did show there was a few neighbors we had, about, I think, 9 people total that showed up. And one of the gentlemen said that there was a problem at the Hopkinton post office, he believed, on Friday. So some of the people didn't get the letters until late. Actually, I got into work this morning, and there was one abutter who had left me a message with my answering service saying that she didn't get her notice until after the meeting. So I do have most of the green cards that are back. Both of them were signed before the meeting, but not substantially. A lot of people signed them on the Tuesday, and we had read the Grange on Wednesday night. Eric Bidler, who has been active with all of the solar projects.
Can you speak in the mic?
Sorry. Eric Bidler, who was active with quite a few of the solar projects, was at the meeting. And he and I had some discussions about whether or not having a second meeting with perhaps more notice would be helpful. And then from the text we had back and forth, he felt that he wasn't supportive of that idea. willing to sit with any of the neighbors, no matter what happens, be it solar or anything else. We're going to be investing in this property for at least 25 to 30 years. If it's housing and we end up retaining ownership of units, or if it's solar, we're going to be this. We want to be a good neighbor. I have no problem having another meeting to go over this with the neighbors. The reaction was mixed. We went over plans we had going back to 2013 after meetings with the town planner. We are a developing company and a construction company, so our intention is to do something with the property. We showed the residents a couple of different options that we had, what courses were available to us. There really were no decisions made. It was just information and discussion. It lasted about 2 hours at the Grange.
So as far as the abutters, I guess, you said it was a mixed bag, I guess? So yes, so were they for or against it, Jim, as far as you can tell?
Even within one household, I had a husband who after the meeting said that he was more in favor of the solar, and his wife said that she didn't think that she liked the solar. So we didn't vote. We just had a discussion to discuss what possibly could be built, what's allowed by zoning, what's allowed by right, what isn't allowed, what we're asking for tonight. That was accepted.
Okay, thank you.
So my question is, so you sent notices to the abutters, but this was a public meeting, if Mr. Goodler was there, he's not an abutter. So when you hold these meetings, is it the abutters and any public that wish to attend?
I don't know most of the abutters personally. We didn't have a sign-in sheet as people came in. If they introduced themselves, I put a little mark so I might be able to keep track of names. We didn't, it was a private meeting. I thought that was the intent, was just to speak with the neighbors. There was no notice or anything, but Mr. Bibble wasn't asked to leave. There was another gentleman who owns a property about half to 3/4 of a mile down the road. He came just to see what was going on. And again, we weren't asking anyone to leave. It was just a discussion.
Yes, sir.
How many abutters are there?
I think there was 15 or 16 notices that went out.
Anything else from Mr. Grundy, Scott?
Just disappoints me that this was initiated in 2018. Here we are in 2020. I came to a meeting and I brought up that I realized that when we had the last meeting that another property was added, and I just thought it was so unusual in this type of project. I don't know, I don't recall, and I'm saying correctly, any developer come forward with a plan and then we're going to add some property to it. I don't recall any of this solar subject since I've been on the council occurring. It just seems so out of the ordinary. I have a hard time dealing with the concept that I'm sitting at a meeting, was noticed, it was promoted as a certain types of property, and then all of a sudden something's out of the blue, and now we can revert back to the original one. I just find it very unusual. That's all. Thank you.
The only thing I could say to you about that is that the Gates property, in my opinion, has more value to me in a non-solar development than a solar development. Nothing contractually between us and the solar developer involves the Yates property at all. If it was developed in a non-solar manner, it's a second entrance exit for us in a conventional development, so it has a much greater value for the acreage and the access.
I have nothing else.
Okay, anything else from Mr. Grundy?
Thank you.
Mr. President and members of the council, that concludes our presentation, and it's my understanding that it would be open to the public for questions.
Yeah, let me just ask if the council has any other questions for the applicant. Does anybody have any questions?
I would like to ask Mr. Grundy
Sure.
if indeed it is an open meeting. Certainly none of us attended, and I may wish to attend too. I don't know what speaking about.
If your preference is that we have another meeting with the abutters, we certainly will. This time I clearly understand that I'll send out the notices and they'll go out with quite a bit more notice than a week or less. It wasn't closed, but it certainly wasn't a public meeting where we would do a posting or anything along those lines. It was just something where I rented the Grange individually and we had a discussion, but if you like, I'd certainly make sure that everyone on the council received an invitation to it.
I'm only interested if the abutters wanted to have a meeting. If they don't, that's fine.
I think there's quite a few of them here and they can tell you whatever their preference is, I'll do.
It's whatever the purpose.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next we'll start with any abutters to the project. Speak first. We'll do 10-minute max, and then we'll give everyone a chance to speak, then non-abutters, and then anyone that hasn't had a chance to speak will go around, actually needs to speak anymore, will go around for a second round. So state your name, address.
John Klosterman, 600 Main Street.
What's the address, John?
600 Main Street, my lot is 34B. This started a year ago. My daughter and I, when we found out about this, we went around to all our neighbors that nobody even knew each other on the street. We got Lechestein, maybe 16. All the abutters signed the petition against the zoning. Mr. Grundy's meeting came out of the blue. Only 3 of the abutters came that I can recall.
3, not 9.
Huh?
I didn't know.
3 abutters went, not
Yeah.
9.
3 abutters came. We all got our notice, kind of like on the last thing. The bottom line, for me, is that right from the beginning, we've been against this change of zoning that doesn't go along with the comprehensive plan of this town. Zoning does not, the solar panels do not belong in residential areas. This is like the 3rd time I told you. I bought this property when I was 21 years old. I bought 3 acres of land, I worked really hard for it, and I paid $9,000 for it. And there was a line behind it, I had a really good buffer, I was on Route 3. There wasn't much line between me and 95. Although I knew that property was owned by somebody else, and that anybody could do whatever they wanted to. It was residential. I had no fear with that, and I had no problem with that. And all these years went by, which was cool. Nothing really happened. And then all of a sudden this is going on. You have a beautiful stream. It's a natural spring that runs right through the end of my property, and we're right on a beach. And my neighbor can even attest to this too. We were invited to this meeting by Mr. Grundy to tell us that what his expectations were for this property. Little did we know that he's got other things planned. Was he trying to intimidate us? Trying to say, low housing, we want to put in the back of your yard, and if we do, we're going to take down every single tree in this 29-acre property. I went back there today. They have all the big, humongous trees. There's the Taft, boy, you're going to have a blast. These things are huge. They got all marked up with blue. It's about 25 feet from my property line. I am against changing the zoning to manufacturing when I bought this property, I didn't think there would be a solar plant put behind my land because I thought I was protected by the town, and I trusted the town. And now we're going through all this. Somebody wants to build houses back there, that's their right. If that was my land, I would want to do that too. But to put a Ferris wheel back there, can I put a Ferris wheel on my land? This is really getting to us all. I mean, this is like the 1 billionth time that we've come here. A lot of the abutters, they have families. Me and the other people that came, we're all retired. We get the time to do this. Not that we want to. These other people don't have it. They have families and stuff. They got things to do the next day. That's probably why they're not here. It's probably not even come to Mr. Grundy's meeting. That I thought he was just asking for all the abutters, but there was more than the abutters that were there. People that I have a feeling that he's good friends with. I don't have much more to say other than that I'm pleading with you just to stop the sprawl of changing the zoning laws for solar plants in our backyard. You're going to see it from 95. Beautiful. You already see it from 95. Take a ride down Route 91. Be a heck of a lot better looking at houses. But these houses are going to be like feet from Route 95. I can't see that happening, but if it does, it does. But I am totally against solar expansion in this beautiful town of Hopkinton that I loved. And I just hope that you agree with me. Thanks, Frank, for listening to me.
Thank you, John. Another butter. Yes.
My name is Betsy Alvarez. I live at 574 Main Street. I'm actually the abutter that called this weekend when I got my notice on Saturday. I'll see what number are you in? 574. Yep. So, I am the abutter that called on Saturday. I got my little slip in the mail on Thursday from the post office. I work at the high school. They're not hours that I can go to the post office, so I went on Saturday, picked it up, opened it up, went in and talked to the woman that was working and at the post office, and she said that with the certified mail, with the holiday weekend, that mailing it Friday night, Friday afternoon, whatever it was not enough time to give notice for certified mail to us abutters. So one, I'm concerned with that. Two, I'm concerned with the Yates property, and now I'm even more concerned because the Yates property is my next door neighbor. We literally have a little metal fence between our property that was there when I bought it in 2011. My children were here, I had to bring them, I had no sitter, so I apologize that they're here, but they're here. They have a nice little swing set, wooden swing set, on that property line. So when you said that that would be a great property to add for whatever, maybe a road, access road, that concerns me. My children are still young, okay? I don't plan on moving because I grew up in Chariho, I plan on staying in Chariho, and I work here, okay? I am not for solar, I'm not for building low-income housing that I found out about 5:30 from an email, okay, for people. I'm not for that either, and I don't think you guys are going to be for that either, because we already know that we have more students in the district this year, which I think it's the kindergartners between the two elementary schools. That's another issue that you're going to have to deal with. But the reality is we don't need more solar. Solar is everywhere, okay? And we have the Maxon Hill up the street. Looks horrible when you drive down Route 3, but this property here doesn't need solar. We look ridiculous when you drive on 95. But right now I'm very concerned. I was concerned to come to bring my 2 small children here to this meeting, which is not age appropriate, but I had to. But after, I'm glad I did, because now in the back of my mind, I'm worried about that Yates property, because these 2 kids and my future grandkids, I don't want a road next. So I don't care about your buffers that I don't know what's going to go into our groundwater. I have perfect groundwater. I don't have to do anything to my water. And I grew up having to have different things for filtration at my parents' house. I don't need to do anything. I bought this for my children, for my future grandchildren, and I don't want to hear, I don't want to see 95. Okay, I have woods behind me. I luckily own enough behind me that I do have a little bit of a buffer, but it's still not enough that you can hear 95. Never mind all the, science and, animals. I see deer back there, everything. But just the fact that you cut that down, you're going to see 95. And we're not talking about putting a big barrier up so I don't see 95. Okay? And so I'm just really concerned. I think the council really needs to think about what they said, that if they don't do solar, they're going to do something, and that something could increase taxes, okay, not decrease. So that's what I came to say. Yeah. I don't know my lot number, so I apologize. I just know that Yates property, which I was the one that didn't get the letter for the last meeting in October. I would have been here, but again, the full certified letter thing, I didn't get that until after the meeting as well. I came to one of the meetings in November and talked, but I'm literally the next door neighbor to the property that was added to the other, which they've taken out, but I'm still concerned about that. So, any other questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other abutters here tonight? Yes.
Hello, my name is Rich LaVoy. I live at 552 Main Street, and my property...
Rich, can you speak into the mic, please?
Okay, Rich LaVoy. I live at 552 Main Street. My land borders the south end of that property. We talked about this at the last meeting in October, and I'm glad you brought up the subject about wanting to see the property. I think it's good that you see it and get an idea of what you're all up against. I'm on the fence on this for two reasons. Both reasons, they both suck actually. I don't like solar, I don't like to have housing. So it's a catch-22. We talked about having, once, if we do have solar, we're going to have an echo chamber coming right to the town hall. I mentioned that before. And I know the sound's bad now because I live right there. So I don't really like the idea of seeing development bringing in more homes. You're going to end up with more kids, more schools, more police department, more of everything else. And it's going to bring up our taxes. I mean, it's a catch-22. I believe that there's an issue there. And I sympathize with all of you because you all got to make up that decision where we stand at. And none of us are going to be happy with what's going to happen. So I'm just saying that, again, I'm not happy about either housing or the solar. But looking at it, you do have a buffer. You have over 100 feet of tree line that's going to support some of that property. I'm just concerned about the echo. Then when you look at the other end of it, you're going to develop homes. You're going to take down all these damn trees anyhow. And you're going to bring in a bunch of kids, a bunch of neighborhoods. You're going to have traffic going on to Route 3 continuously. That's what's bothering me. So, again, I hope you guys do the right decision because I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the answer is. But that's how I look at it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Moore. Any other abutters here tonight?
Good evening, everybody.
You can over that mic if you'd like.
Loretta Peach, 98 Main Street. I think it's plot 34A, I'm not sure. Now, I'm looking at this. This is a monstrosity. It really is. And I applaud Mr. Lavoy for bringing attention to the fact that it could be an echo chamber. The last time I spoke, I kind of approached different subjects. I approached the plane flying over advertising Geico insurance. I also approached it with the trucks that are going by that are avoiding the tolls. Now, I go all over the place. I travel all over the state. I go to Massachusetts. I go to Connecticut. This weekend, I was in Warwick, and I was cutting through on Kilvert Street, and there's a solar array there, right behind where Lebanon used to be. And the reason I was cutting through there on Kilvert Street is my mother-in-law lives in Weathersfield Commons, which is a condo which comes back to Metro Center Boulevard. So when I came around the corner, and there's this solar array, and it just devastated all of the land there, all of the trees, and it just looks terrible. And you're turning our state into an industrial wasteland, basically. I don't want to turn Rhode Island into a postage stamp of solar arrays, and that's what's happening. We're not responsible to give everybody in the country electricity. Not only that, but it just seems like it's a money grab. It really does. Everybody that comes in here and says they're applying for this and they're applying for that, I know when you're a developer and you have different properties, you create a different name for that property so you can keep your bookkeeping straight, but it's all the same. All the money is being funneled into one company, basically. So I'm a little skeptical on the people that come here before us and say that you know, they're doing us big favors, and they're not. I really am against changing the zoning for the comprehensive plan. It gave us a guarantee when we bought our properties. Now, if you change the comprehensive plan, my acreage is governed. I have 2 1/4 acres, and I have to have so much road frontage, and DEM tells me what I can and can't do as far as modifying anything. So now when they come in and they do this, what's going to happen to the groundwater? I've already approached that as well. Now, I also had a neighbor that maybe some of you knew. He lived on the corner of Lawton Foster Road. And he's deceased now. He died of a brain tumor. And the reason is he had gasoline in his water. And a lot of people wouldn't know that unless they spoke to Joe. And one of the neighbors was a mechanic, and he was dumping the oil and the gas into the brook. So when they checked his well, because he was getting headaches, that's when they found the gas in his water. So now his nephew and his family inherited that house from Joe. They had raised their family there. They had 5 boys in that house. And that house was, I think it was like a 2-bedroom house. So they were saving money so that they could put an addition onto that little house right on the corner of Lawton Foster Road. Well, in 2010, the floods happened. And I also brought up the tunnel system for the Underground Railroad system. The tunnel went through Joe's property. The tunnels collapsed, and so did the well for that house on the corner of Lawton Foster Road. So now here's a young family with 5 children, 5 boys. The money that they had saved to put an addition onto their house, they had to put a new well in instead. They could no longer afford to live in that house. They couldn't keep, their boys were getting big. And they were really good people. I miss having them for my neighbors. So they sold the house, and now there's a couple in there, I think, and they have 1 child. and I've never met them. And like John said, before any of this controversy happened, John and I never met, and we lived next door to each other. So for this, there's a small blessing that came out of it, that I met John and his family, and I met a lot of the other neighbors too, which I'm really glad. But please, don't take the threat of somebody saying they're going to come in and build 64 housing units. Gentlemen, Mr. Grundy, you're entitled to use your property, but use it according to the comprehensive plan. Make it so that it's the small lots like we have that dictate how people are going to live there. Don't clear cut. Don't give us all this monstrosity. I'm going to be worried about, I already had a low-level water situation this year. I had to have the water filter company come in. I had to test the flow. I had to test the water quality again. So then that made me even think, oh my God, what they're doing down the road at Maxon Hill, is that affecting the aquifer under us? You have to take all these considerations. So getting back to Joe having contaminated water, having them work on the property in the back with the stream, the brook that goes back there, that I'm dearly trying to protect. The environment and the habitat that's back there. One day, I was out there, my dog alerted me in the house. I went out, I didn't let the dog out. There was a turkey in the front. I thought, oh, how cool. I come back in the house and I get my phone because I want to take a picture of the turkey because his feathers were all fanned out. But when I get out there, he's in the woods. So I walk down to the side between John's house and mine. And all of a sudden I realize the ground is moving. I had a 1/4 acre of baby turkeys. Little turkeys like this. And they were all just bobbing along, and all the adult turkeys surrounded them. And it took them a while before they crossed in the back of the house, all the way across the acreage, my couple of acres in the back, and then go on. But they protected their young ones the whole time. Then I had owls in the trees that didn't leave, and I didn't know why the owl wasn't leaving. I didn't know that they were being displaced because I was an ostrich. I had my head in the sand. I didn't know that the whole town was being obliterated left and right. I didn't go down the back roads. I was too busy leaving the state, going to different events that I attended. So, in other words, oh, and also, every year, I have a hawk that comes to visit me for the last 6 years. And it comes up as a memory on Facebook within a day or two of each other. For the last 6 years, those memories keep coming up. So now I'm in the flight pattern of the hawks as well. And then one day I had an eagle, believe it or not, come right over my head. I could not believe it. Standing in my driveway, looking up, and it was right there at the height of the ceiling. So the habitat, as well as our peace and our right to enjoy our property under the comprehensive plan that existed when we bought the property. I hope I make it clear. I really do. Please just abide by the comprehensive plan and stop destroying our community, because what it feels like is a rape and pillage of the village. You're taking everything away from us that we built and invested in here. And we support you. I support all of you. You don't know me, but I've known all of you for years. I've attended meetings off and on. My husband was the moderator for the Board of Elections. You know, he spoke highly of a lot of you. He met with a lot of you, and he came home and he told me things, even Sylvia. You know, so please look out for the citizens of this town. Look out for the abutters for this project, and stop being intimidated and stop being misled by developers that are going to change horses in midstream. Because it almost seems like it's a 38 Studios deal where they're going to come in and they just want to take your money and then leave, and you're left holding the bag. And in 20 years, Who's going to be the town council responsible for it while we're picking up the pieces again? Every time you talk about the budget, I'd love to look at the budget and maybe pay attention myself, which I never have. But I have a background in bookkeeping and all of that myself, you know? So maybe it's time to start saying no financially to some things so we can do the right thing and not have to explain why we did the wrong thing down the line.
I just want to say Bill Lopez.
So thank you for listening to me and giving me this opportunity. But I am genuinely concerned for the community, and we should be having a greenway there. It should be preserved and a land trust so that we can enjoy the property and connect in between 95 and Route 3 instead of worrying about it. Because I already feel the vibrations from the trucks, I feel them from the airplanes, and I can't even tell you the trucks and the vehicles, because there's a hill on 95 right there. So they're struggling to come up the hill, and you can hear as they're coming up. So, and the other thing, like I mentioned, I did design my own house, and it does face the back. My living room and my master bedroom do face the backwoods. And I get up every morning, and I have a chair in my bedroom, and I have coffee, I watch the sunrise, and it's beautiful, and I enjoy watching all the birds and everything, and the deer that come right up to the back of the house. So, like I said, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Any other abutters here? I wish to speak. Okay, I'll open it up to non-abutters. Joe?
Joe Moreau, Old Depot Road. I just want to echo something that Scott mentioned. This is one of the most confusing projects that I've ever attended. This started in November, I believe, 2018. It's been one delay after the next. I'm on an email list for Beaver River Association, and a resident there sent me something and said that most of these developers, typically the tactic is delay, 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 and they'll go away. Well, these people aren't going away. I had a call from Pat Shimkus a year or so ago. She introduced me to Rich. I went up and looked at this gorgeous piece of property where his daughter lives on part of that property. I don't remember the name, but one of his grandkids had dedicated a pathway. And I think it's like Grandpa's Lane or something, where it's Grandpa's Lane, Pepe's Lane, where it goes down to the spring. You know, no one has mentioned it yet. This is a classic example of spot zoning. If you think about it, you look at that area, this is definitely spot zoning. I've listened to so many developers with their promises. We're going to do this, we're not going to do that. I look at some of the promises that were made on Palmer Circle, on Maxon Hill, and many of the other projects. And oh, I'm sorry, we didn't realize we cut all those trees down in the buffer. It was supposed to be 100 feet. I remember Tom Holberton complimenting this group when they had that first proposal. And Tom said, I really like your project. He said, the thing that's wrong with it, it's residential property. If it was anywhere else, because they had a different configuration with the panels instead of north, south, east, west, I think it was, and they did a nice job with their presentation. But from what I could see, because I attended that planning board, this is quite a bit different than I think what the planning board saw initially. You have to take people at their word, but sometimes when you really start digging into things and looking at it, it comes back to what John said. We bought residential property. Everyone here that bought residential property expects it to be residential property. I just saw something online today where it said in the South County, Hopkinton was #1 as far as home sales. You know, and I heard it a little while ago. I'm tired of, and there's 2 young children here. I never realized children are a burden. You know, and that's sad when we think children are a burden. I'm sure those people that bought all the homes that moved into Hopkinton, they realize the tax rate, they realize the services that we have, services that we don't have. I agree with, I think it's Nancy, more people attended the budgeting workshops, or they go to the Cheraho for the school. We don't have any support with residents don't go, and that's 75–76% of our budget is based on that. But let's not say that you know the children are going to come in. Every one of us here was raised and brought up in a home, and I'm glad I wasn't a burden where I grew up. But I just want to leave you with the fact that it's spot on. I heard clearly that there were 9 abutters, I believe was mentioned, and yet I was told by an abutter that there were 2, maybe 3. It was very clear at the last hearing that the project was going to be 4 lots. There was no confusion. I mean, I go back and I look at the videos after each meeting. It was very clear that that was going to be a 4-lot proposal. There was pushback. Now it's back to, I can't even say the original project because I don't know what the original project is anymore. It's just so confusing. Thank you.
Okay, any other non-abutters wish to speak? Yes.
Good evening, Lynn Pierre, Maxon Hill. I'm going to speak as the voice of experience this evening. These residents, their concern about their water is not unwarranted. We've had water problems on Maxon Hill, we had them before, they are exacerbated now. We said this was going to happen and it did. My neighbor's pool collapsed. We are certain there are cracks in the ledge. Their drinking water has become unpotable. It's not fit for drinking. This electricity is not staying local. It's going off to Lord knows where. You know what happens when the storms come through here. The next day it's sunny, this stuff's going to be up and running, sending electricity to the beautiful people while we're running our generators under fossil fuel. There's no bonus I see to putting this in a residential area. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, Ray.
Name's Ray Cox, and I'm not at the bottom, but I'm very close. I'm in the land is the pond down the road away from this property. And to start off with, the wetland on this property is what feeds my pond. That goes along the back. It's not really a brook, it goes in and out. And that's where where's it come from? That's part of it right there. I know a lot of great roads, but I don't want to see it affected. One thing is, I'm against what you call sprawl. A few years back, when I was on the planning board, I was for the big boxes. A lot of people were against it because they thought it was going to ruin Hopkinton. But I did not want, I said, you're going to put an exit 1, you draw a line. I didn't go for sprawl. I was for it. But this here solar, my book is sprawl. This is wrong. Going in the residential area, I'm not for it. If you, I'm not against it total, but if you put it in a commercial lane like the town dump, something like that, it's fine. But you don't go put it in people's backyards. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other non-abutters?
My name is Rachel Morgan. I'm John's neighbor. I'm not an
a butter, but I'm also very, very close. I've spoken before. This is, like everybody has said, this is ridiculous. The fact that 95 is right behind us. If I stand on my back deck, I can see the cars through the trees. So if you take out, 30 acres of land, I'm going to have a beautiful view of 95. That's sarcasm. It's just, please understand that just as all the bumper stickers say, we want to keep Hopkinton country. We want to preserve the land and keep, that's why we all moved here. That's the reason. So please just preserve that. Thank you.
Any other non-yes to?
Hi, I'm Chip Hale, Chase Hill Road. I had a question, so hoping to get some clarification. It seems that it's being presented that it's either solar or it's low-income housing, and being used basically as a threat, forcing the abutters to choose one or the other. And the argument being made, it seems to me, or at least from what I've been told, is that there's nothing that can be done. So maybe the town council has the power to prevent the solar installation from coming in. But ultimately, there's no power by the town to prevent low-income housing because the state can just overrule that. Is that in fact the case?
Again, if it's zoned for residential houses, then you build residential houses.
So,
Or RRE, it is by right. We can build low-income housing, large houses, medium houses, whatever we want to build. The roads, the streetlights, the well for 6 and 4 houses. You can build anything you want by right. And the state wants low-income housing almost more than solar.
so the town is
For both, the town can use both.
Again, what's before us tonight is the solar application.
yeah.
So-
Well, I understand. It's scary. I mean, we're currently trying to fight the Chase Hill situation, and so I'm here because I want to see how this situation is going. And I had heard this essential threat of the housing. I just wanted something. So if this is a real, legitimate threat that if any one of these proposals gets shot down, the landowner can basically do whatever they want with regards to.
Within the zoning regulations.
Yeah, within the zoning. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Carolyn Lyon, 43 Forest Glen, Drive, Oak Valley. Kind of glad this housing thing came up, because it's something we have to speak to now as neighbors. Addressing the council, but I'm talking to everybody out here. Shame on you guys for threatening people with housing. The real problem is not the cost of the children to the town. The real problem is the school district. Every year they raise the taxes. We've had threats of housing for Brushy Brook. Another 65 low-income houses could go in your neighborhood, but if you don't get out and pay attention to what is going on with your town's budget and your school district's budget, you are to blame. Not the council, not the developers, but shame on you guys for threatening these people with the threat of houses. We love children, we love neighbors. I love everybody in my neighborhood. The real threat is us. So if you promise yourself that you are going to go to at least one town council meeting where they talk about our town budget, go to one school budget meeting, you bring yourself and your neighbors out to vote, we wouldn't be talking about solar. We wouldn't be talking about the fear of housing development. Okay? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I think one of the biggest problems in our state is the Rhode Island General Assembly. The Rhode Island State Constitution is very clear. Article 12 12, Section 1, the General Assembly should promote education. And the stress of property taxes could be addressed by the General Assembly. I know they have a budget deficit, but they have misguided priorities. So they should take a stand for the children of this state, of our state's future, and the property owners, especially in smaller towns. And the bottom line is, should a town council, any local body, make a decision strictly upon the fear of houses being built, whether it's solar arrays or any other project, say, you have to approve this because they might put houses in. That's almost, gives you no option, either solar or whatever, and houses. Thank you.
Any other non-butters? Yes.
Tammy King Walsh, 229 Woodville Road. I've previously spoken at some of these hearings, not on this particular proposal, but on other solar proposals, and my position on them has not changed. Big surprise, right? I'm still opposed to any spot zoning that takes RFR80 property and turns it into commercial land and allows solar. And I said this at the very first hearing that I've been to. The thing that I find most disturbing about it, regardless of whether it conforms with our comprehensive plan or not, but it was brought up by some of these neighbors. They bought their property was on RFR80, the property around them was on RFR80. They knew, they bought their property, that there could be houses. Could be a few houses, a lot of houses, whatever, houses, not solar panels. And so my position hasn't changed. It's inappropriate under any circumstances for us to be considering solar on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other non-butters? Okay. We have a decision to make to continue the hearing or close it and set a date for a decision. What do you guys think? There's a motion on the floor. Sharon made a motion to close the hearing. Barbara seconded.
Okay, you can still take the floor.
Yeah.
I will try to set that up. Here's the phone.
We can't hear.
So a motion was made and seconded to close the hearing and set a date for a decision. All those in favor of closing the hearing and setting a date for a decision, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, that sounds good. So that this hearing is now closed. And Lisa, what do you think on the timing? And I assume we could probably go to town hall.
Based on people present this evening, yes, it looks like we'd be able to fit people at the town hall. You have a busy schedule ahead of you. You just scheduled budget workshops, so I'm not certain if you are thinking you'd like to go into later in February or in March.
I'd like to
So you have a regular meeting on February 3rd. You have a budget workshop on the 6th of February. I believe you have one on the 3rd of February. And you also have the stenographer's transcript written yet. I believe Sylvia Johnson needs to do that.
What's the last week of February look like?
The week of the 25th, 4th, you have a budget workshop on Monday the 24th. And then you have a
She's had the transcript. She has the. Oh.
So you have a meeting on the 18th of February, Tuesday. That's going to contain a continued matter on Big Silver.
It's a budget workshop. Not going to say. How about the 26th? everybody's okay with 227 Sharon Road?
Tuesday the 25th and Thursday the 27th to be discussed.
What's the 26th?
That's a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Is that open?
It is, Wednesday.
So we have
So going into March. You have a regular council meeting on
Second.
March 2nd. You want to do it the night of your regular council meeting, or just get it?
All right, let's do that on 3-2.
Okay, so that'll be March 2nd, 7 p.m.
So the decision will be made March 2nd at the regular town council meeting. Okay. And I have a motion to adjourn.
Frank,
Yes.
what was the date on that?
3-2, John,
Okay,
at town hall.
okay,
Regular council meeting will render our decision then.
okay.
Thank you.
Before we adjourn, Lou, you have a vote.
I provided a copy of these remarks to Lisa so that if you need them for any person, any transcript or anything, that they're available.
I can't understand you, Luther.
I provided, I provided a copy of these remarks to Lisa so that if anyone needs to come back and review them, they're available for everybody to go through. As many of you know, Sharon and I recently lost our son after a long illness. We can only say that we are confident that after much suffering, he is now well and happy. The reason I wish to speak briefly before you tonight is to express sincere thanks and appreciation to all of you who have expressed condolence and sympathy for our loss, or had they gotten the news in time, would have done so. All have provided acts of kindness. It is not often in these times that people will rally together at the tragic loss of a fellow Hopkinton family. We will, of course, try to respond to everyone individually who has contacted us, but neither Olive Johnson, the matriarch, nor I, Luther Davis, the patriarch, nor the other family members felt this was enough. Too many people have spoken up or by their acts and attendance expressed their feelings. Many of those people are here in this hall tonight or are part of the assembly of governance that is Hopkinton. It is our hope that others may view the tape of tonight's proceedings and thereby learn and know that not all is rancor and dispute. The people of Hopkinton care for each other. And so, on behalf of all the members of the family known under the various names of Artis, Brown, Davis, Eccleston, Gear, Hazard, Johnson, Lancaster, Sebastian, Taylor, and Williams, thank you. Thank you to the members of this council, to the individuals in the administration, and everyone else who shared our loss. Thank you for your sympathy, condolence, and acts of kindness. Each was a glow of candlelight in the darkness and will be remembered as such. Thank you, Luther and Sharon Davis.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I move that we adjourn in memory of Jason Charles Davis.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.